Can a brand drive business performance? In this video, I'm going to do a quick recap on how brands can drive business performance and also answer the question, do I need a brand? Spoiler alert, yes. I'm then going to back this up with another 2 examples of case studies from companies that are doing it well. I covered in my other video titled, What is a Brand? What a brand is and what it does. So let's dive in, a quick recap of that, and also discuss how brands drive business performance. So we discussed before that a brand is not just a logo, it is the sum of perceptions of everything a company does. How do brands drive business performance? They do this by creating a halo effect that does these 4 things. It builds customer preference and loyalty, it supports premium pricing, enables entry into new markets and with new products, and it enhances employee recruitment and retention. So if that is what a brand is, and how they drive business performance, let's look at some case studies again of who is doing this well. Now, we previously covered 2 case studies in my previous video covering Apple and IKEA. Today, we're going to cover 2 other completely different industries looking at food and beverage and apparel or clothing. Today, we're going to look at Pepsi, who has a brand value today at about $18.6 billion. That brand value has gone up 47% since 2006, and their share price at this time was roughly $155, which has gone up 152% since 2006. Not a bad return. The second case study is Nike, or some people call it Nike. I'm calling it Nike. So they have a brand value of almost $35 billion. It's gone up 216% since 2006. Their share price this time is about $164, which has gone up a staggering 1,364%, which is an amazing return. Congratulations if you happen to buy shares in around the mid-2000s or before. So let's look at Pepsi. And I've chosen Pepsi rather than Coke because a lot of people focus on Coca-Cola with such a strong brand. But Pepsi does a great job too in different ways as well. So their brand mission and brand value is to create more smiles with every sip and bite. So clearly focused on their end consumer there. So they also built up a really strong brand and heritage in the cola or soda industry. But this is an interesting case study of how they used that brand power and trust to move into a completely new area and product group. So although this case study is a bit old, it's from the 1990s, but it's very, very powerful. I think it's a great example of the power of a brand and how it can drive business performance. So they developed a first mover position into non-carbonated drinks, i.e. bottled water, when bottled water first took off. Everyone takes it for granted now. You go to meeting rooms and in restaurants everywhere, people have bottled water. That was not the case sort of early 1990s and before. The only place you got water was pretty much out of the tap. You wouldn't dream of actually paying for water when it was free out of the tap. However, Pepsi, another great example of marketing and a consumer customer-led company, they were tracking and understood the evolving consumer needs, that people wanted more health. They wanted to eat and drink healthier things. And they wanted to lead healthier lifestyles. So they used the trust, reputation, and confidence built up in the Pepsi brand and with consumers to move into this new market. Now, obviously, they didn't want to brand Pepsi on water because a carbonated drink and a bottle of water is not the same thing, other than just having drinks in common, but that's about it. So they did their market research. They launched with a new brand called Aquafina, and it had a positioning around purity, also very customer and consumer led. Consumers are looking for, I want pure water. So what Pepsi did, they turned their ability to say, well, okay, we're a processed company, man. We make processed foods. We make carbonated colas. We make Doritos, Frito-Lay, etc. But we have power in processing things, and if we want to process water to make it really pure, then we're one of the best companies to do that. So they captured this core benefit sought by consumers, which is purity of water. They said we're able to actually manufacture a really, really pure water, which they launched under this new brand. And then they consistently executed this new brand in all media and TV commercials, all the way down to vending machines and point of sale. A great example of launching a brand from scratch by using the power and trust of a built-up existing brand. So people said, well, Aquafina, I've never heard of it. Oh, it's made by PepsiCo. Oh, great. That's a brand I know, I trust. They have quality control standards. They're not going to do anything, weird or dodgy below board in the market that's going to upset or poison consumers. I will buy this product. And then that brand then becomes a brand in its own right. And the result of how that, this branding move drives business performance, they now have the number one position in bottled water in the United States, even though there was other bigger companies like Coca-Cola. They were there first, they took the position first. So they've generated approximately $2 billion in additional revenue, and it drove 20% of their corporate growth in the following years post the launch of this brand. So in answer to your question, does a brand drive business performance? Yes. There are other branded products in Pepsi and Frito-Lay, and Doritos has also grown over time with those existing brands, but they're also able to move into a new product category using their existing brand strength and dominate it and take a large proportion of that market very, very quickly. And this is what I said before, that brands enable you to enter new markets and new products if you have a strong brand that consumers know and trust in the market already. The second case study is Nike. So their brand mission and ambition is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. What they really mean these days is they want everyone to believe they are an athlete. Everyone is an athlete. And how they do this is they have captured the spirit and personality of sport. And how do they do that? They have consistent investment in spokespeople, sponsorship, consistent advertising, arena merchandising, branding everywhere creates a larger than life brand. So if you go way back in time, Nike was originally a running shoe, and they weren't the best running shoe, and they certainly weren't the best basketball shoe. And then in the 90s, they kind of took a gamble and said, okay, well, let's put all our chips on sponsoring this bright new talent in the NBA. That person, everybody knows, was Michael Jordan. And they went from being kind of second or third tier in their division to being the absolute market leader. They did a great job of spokespeople as sponsorship. They blazed the trail on that. They've since diversified away from that a little bit, but the power of the brand of what they built up. Actually, they had a legacy in running. They then built up a huge position in perception in basketball for obvious reasons, and they then used that brand to expand across other sports. So they moved into golf. They followed the same strategy with Tiger Woods. But they're able to go into everything now. So now they make golf balls, they make sunglasses, they make clothing, shirts, trousers, socks, caps, everything. They're an apparel company for every athlete. So whatever you want, they now make it. Yoga pants, you got it. Okay, so they have a larger than life brand. They do frequent design upgrades and line breadth to basically get into as many sporting categories as they can. But they still have a simple but tightly controlled brand presentation that has not changed in 20 plus years. Consistency and continued investment. And the result is they are the number one brand in 60% of the categories in which they compete, which is astonishing. So in some of the traditional legacy categories like basketball, they have a massively high share, but to say, okay, they're in sort of 10 plus categories of all these different sports, and they make clothing and equipment for all of these different sports, and they're the number one brand in 60% of the sporting categories or clothing categories and apparel categories that they compete in. It's just astonishing. But again, it shows the power of a really strong brand that consumers know and trust, that you can do line extensions of your current product, you can keep adding to it, and you can go into new product categories and dominate there as well, and go into new countries. So Nike is really strong in China now because they went there early, they continued to invest, and they have a strong position. So they can also go into new countries. And again, this is the power of a strong brand. But watch what Nike does. Executed consistently, managed really, really well. So Nike is a company, as you saw, a 1,300% return on your investment in actually a relatively short space of time, since 2006. So this is another company using a brand in the apparel world doing things really well. Do I need a brand? Yes. Let me know in the comments below if this is helpful, and if it is, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to get more content and topics like this one. Thank you.